My 34M wife, 30F, wants to name our baby after her ex, saying it's just a nice name. Huge red flag? A couple weeks ago, we started discussing names for our son. We both made lists of names we liked and sat down one evening to compare. One of the names on her list was James. It's a classic, solid name. When she brought it up, I actually smiled because I liked it too. I remember saying something like, "Oh, James, I kind of love it." She seemed happy I was on board. For a brief moment, it felt like a sweet, exciting step forward in preparing for our baby. But that warm, fuzzy feeling didn't last. Almost immediately after I said I liked the name, I saw her expression change. Like a flash of hesitation or guilt, I noticed and asked if everything was okay. She then says, super casual, "You know, that's my ex's name, right?" I was taken aback. I sort of stammered, "Wait, you mean your ex James?" That's actually his real name. I'll call him X here for clarity. She and X dated all through college, and a few years after, long before I came into the picture. They broke up about 5 years before she met me. From what she's told me in the past, it was a messy breakup, and he moved to another city. She rarely ever mentioned him except in passing as an old ex, so my immediate reaction was shock that she would even suggest that name. I kind of laughed in disbelief and said, "Babe, we are not naming our son after your ex-boyfriend." She rolled her eyes and quickly replied, "I'm not naming him after my ex. I just like the name. It's a coincidence." I told her it didn't feel like just a coincidence. That's the only association I have with the name, her ex. I said it would be one thing if a distant cousin had that name or something. You could still use it, but an ex is different. It's the one name that's basically off limits for your kid, right? She got defensive and said I'm overreacting, that James is just a nice, normal name she happens to love. She tried to reassure me that she has zero feelings for X, and that a name is just a name. She even said she'd loved the name James since she was a kid, and it had nothing to do with her ex at all. I told her, if it really had nothing to do with him, why didn't she mention she liked this name before? We've had casual talks about baby names in the past, even before she was pregnant. She never brought up James until now. She didn't have a good answer for that, just kept saying she knew I'd make it weird, which is why she hesitated to mention it. The conversation turned into an argument. I admit, I started getting pretty upset. I asked her point blank why it had to be that name out of all the names in the world, like why even go there? Does she not understand how it undermines our relationship for her to insist on it? She reacted strongly to the word undermine. She said I was twisting things and that I'm the one hurting our marriage by not trusting her. She said, "It's just a damn name." "Why are you acting like I proposed we name the kid after my ex to spite you?" I responded that it kind of felt like a slap in the face that she would even think it's okay. Most people would immediately veto their ex's name for a child. That's just common sense in a marriage, I thought. She then fired back that her feelings matter too, and that I'm basically telling her she has no say just because I'm insecure. That really stung. I told her, "Look, you can have any say you want except this one. This one is just, no." I even used the line I've heard before. Baby names should be a 2 yes, 1 no decision, meaning both parents must agree, and if one vetoes, the name is out. She was not hearing that. At one point, I tried to lighten the mood, probably stupid in hindsight, and joked, "How would you feel if I wanted to name our daughter after my ex-girlfriend?" She immediately said, "That's different." And that pissed me off, and I asked, "How on earth is that different?" She claimed, "I wouldn't care if you liked the name because I know you don't have feelings for her." I just gaped at that and said, "Well, now I'm not so sure you don't have feelings left for X if you're this attached to his name." That set her off. She started crying and accusing me of calling her a cheater or implying she's unfaithful, which I did not say. It was a messy, emotionally charged fight. Finally, she yelled, "Fine, forget it. We won't use it. Happy?" But she was crying and angry, and then she locked herself in the bathroom. I was still fuming, but also felt bad seeing her cry. I kept saying through the door, "I just want to talk this out," but she told me to leave her alone. Eventually she came out, eyes red, and went straight to bed early without another word. That was a few days ago. Since then, things have been ice cold between us. She did technically drop the name like she said, but we haven't settled on a different one, and any time I gently bring up the topic, she shuts it down. She'll say something like, "Just pick whatever you want, I don't care anymore." She clearly does care, but is acting like I've ruined this experience for her. Meanwhile, I'm walking on eggshells. We do the bare minimum of communication to get through daily life. Did you eat? What time is your appointment? Stuff like that. But there's this elephant in the room. At night we lie in bed in silence, backs turned. I hate this. We should be excited, talking about our baby, maybe feeling him kick. She actually did put my hand on her belly to feel a kick 2 nights ago, and we both smiled and almost forgot our fight for like 10 seconds. But then the wall went up again. I'm so frustrated and honestly kind of heartbroken. This is supposed to be one of the happiest times in our lives, and instead we're barely speaking. Part of me is also second-guessing myself now. Did I blow this out of proportion? Or is her behavior as bizarre as it feels to me? Because to me, this is a huge red flag. I haven't told any family or friends about this because I don't want them judging her. On the surface, she wants to name the baby James doesn't sound bad without the context. If I add, which is her ex's name, they'd probably flip, and I don't want to unleash that unless I truly can't resolve this privately. From my perspective, it's just such a strange thing for her to dig her heels in on. Like, if the roles were reversed, I wouldn't have even suggested an ex's name at all. And if I accidentally did and it upset her, I'd immediately be like, oh crap, sorry, of course we won't. I certainly wouldn't fight about it and make her feel guilty. So why is she so stuck on this? I love my wife, she's the love of my life, and I always thought we had a great relationship with good communication. This feels out of character for her. It's making me worry, like, is there something unresolved with that ex? Or some part of her past I don't fully get? Or is she just being unreasonably stubborn? I feel a bit lost. I want to fix things, but I also feel strongly that I'm right to not want this name. How do I even approach her to talk again without it blowing up? And if she still insists it's just a name, and I'm the one being irrational, where do we go from there? So yeah, I'm turning to you, internet strangers. Am I justified in seeing this as a red flag? How the hell do we move past this? Any advice is welcome. I never imagined our biggest fight would end up being over something like this. Update 1. First off, wow, I did not expect so many responses. I want to thank everyone who commented. I read every single reply. A lot of you had insightful perspectives, and honestly it gave me the push to have a serious heart-to-heart with my wife, which I'll get to in a second. Many people agreed that it was very odd for her to insist on her ex's name, and some suggested there might be something deeper going on. Unresolved feelings, maybe some connection or event I didn't know about. A few even threw out wild theories, like the baby not being mine, which I am 100% sure is not the case, timeline and trust-wise. But the idea that there was something she wasn't telling me stuck with me, because her behavior really did feel like there was more beneath the surface. After a couple days of this miserable Cold War in our house, I decided enough was enough. We needed to properly talk, not just snipe or avoid each other. I approached her last night. She was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner in silence. Normally we'd be chatting or watching TV together. I said, can we please talk about this? I hate how we're feeling right now. She looked tired and hesitant, but she agreed, and we sat at the table. I told her I was sorry for my part and how heated things got. I said I might not have expressed myself in the best way because I was caught off guard, but that I needed to understand why that name meant so much to her. I actually used a lot of the feedback I got here without saying I got it from Reddit. I mentioned that I felt like there must be a bigger reason she was holding on to this, because it just didn't make sense otherwise. At first, she stuck to her line. I just like the name. I've liked it for years. She was still defensive, saying she felt attacked by me over something she saw as small. I kept my tone as gentle as possible and said the issue feels big to me, and I want to bridge the gap in our understanding. I even said, if the situation were reversed, how would you feel? But she flipped that, saying, I'd feel fine because I trust you. I was getting a bit frustrated, but I remembered so many of you said to stay calm and not accusatory. So I took a deep breath and told her I wasn't accusing her of cheating or anything like that. I was just trying to figure out why this is so important to her that she was willing to fight so hard and make both of us upset. There was a long pause. I could see her grappling with something. Her eyes were welling up, which made my heart pound because I knew we were finally getting to it. I softly said, please, talk to me. Whatever it is, we can handle it. She finally got teary and said, you're going to think it's stupid. I assured her I wouldn't. Honestly, at that point, I was imagining all sorts of crazy scenarios, so any truth would be better than my imagination. She then told me something I did not see coming. Her ex, James, is dead. He died a few years after they broke up. I was stunned. I almost didn't believe her at first. She was fully crying now, and I was just like, what? When? How? She said he died about 3 years ago in a car accident. She had found out through a mutual friend after the fact. At the time we were already together. 3 years ago we would have been dating for a year. She never told me. She just kept that news to herself. I didn't know what to say. I kind of just sat there, absorbing this. She kept talking, saying that when she heard about it, it was a shock and it brought back a lot of old feelings. Not romantic, she clarified, but just heavy emotions. She said she didn't tell me then because their history is a painful topic, and she didn't want to make me uncomfortable or have it seem like she was overly distraught about an ex while dating me. She went on to explain that back when she was with him, they had lightly talked about the future, kids, etc. He had joked that he loved his own name and would want a son named after him one day. Yeah, a bit narcissistic, but whatever. She said she too had liked the idea because she genuinely loved the name. Obviously, that future never happened for them. But when he died, it kind of hit her that he'd never get to have any kids, or a legacy, or whatever. So, and this is where I started to really understand, she felt like naming a son James would be a way to sort of honor that memory or that lost future, in a purely platonic way. Like honoring a friend who passed. She insisted she viewed it more like naming after a deceased friend than after a former lover. In her mind, those are different, because death closed that chapter entirely. I was quiet for a while, just processing her words. I'll be honest, part of me was still upset she kept this from me. But seeing how shaken she was reliving it, I also felt empathy. She looked so vulnerable, like this weight was finally coming off her chest. I told her thank you for telling me. I said I was sorry she went through losing someone who was once important to her. We hugged. A long, really needed hug. It felt like some of the ice between us melted. I then gently had to address the elephant. Where do we go from here about the name? She looked down and said, very quietly, I know you don't want it. And I get why now. I won't push it anymore. She was still crying a bit, and I realized that as much as I felt relieved to have the truth, she was now grieving all over again in a way, both the old loss and maybe the idea of this tribute she had imagined. I told her I understand why the name mattered to her now, but I hope she also understands why it bothered me. She nodded. I admitted to her that when she first brought it up, my mind went to dark places, like worrying she had unresolved feelings or that I was a second choice. She got upset that I'd think that, but I said, I know now it wasn't that, but you have to see how it looked from my side when I didn't know the full story. She apologized, genuinely apologized, for not telling me about X's death earlier and for not explaining her feelings before jumping to arguing. That meant a lot to me. We talked a bit more calmly after that. She said she truly doesn't have lingering romantic feelings for him. It was more like unresolved guilt and sadness. In a way, she thought doing this, the name, might bring some closure or peace. I told her maybe there are other ways to find closure or honor the past that don't involve our child's legal name. We both actually chuckled a little at that, through our tears, because saying it out loud kind of underscored how inappropriate it really was when viewed objectively. By the end of the night, we were emotionally exhausted but on okay terms. She agreed we'd pick another name together, something we both love and that is just ours. We haven't decided on one yet, but the tension is largely gone. We even cuddled for the first time in days. I'm glad we finally talked and that I got the truth. I wish she had opened up from the start, instead of putting me through the ringer and vice versa. I also suggested maybe we could consider grief counseling or therapy together, because it seems like she has some buried pain there. She said she'd think about it. So, that's where we stand. The crisis has sort of passed. No, we're not using the name James. And yes, I fully understand now why it crossed her mind. The whole thing was more complex than I realized. I'm posting this update in case anyone was following, and as a reminder that sometimes when people act in ways that don't make sense, there might be a buried reason. Communication is hard, but when we actually sat down and peeled back the layers, it made a lot more sense, and we found empathy for each other. Thank you to everyone who helped me not go nuclear, and instead approach her with love. We're gonna be okay, I think. Update 2. I wish I could say everything is totally back to normal, but real life is messy, I guess. The past couple of weeks since that talk have been a mix of good and not so good. On the positive side, we did pick a new name for our son together. After many evenings poring over baby name lists, and yes, some awkward laughter of, hey, what about other X's name, as dark humor, we landed on one we both really like that has zero baggage. For privacy, I won't share it, but it's a name that just feels right when we say it. That was a relief, to come to a happy agreement and feel that excitement again. In those moments, we felt like a team. My wife even seemed to lighten up a lot once the name James was truly off the table. I think in a way she accepted that it wasn't meant to be, and maybe that's for the best. We talked a bit more about her ex and her feelings one afternoon, in a calm way. She shared some memories of him, mostly good ones, and also the bad toward the end. She said she doesn't know if she ever fully processed his death because she sort of just shoved it away and moved on with life, meeting me, new city, etc. I mostly just listened. I didn't feel jealous or anything during that talk. Oddly, I felt closer to her, understanding what shaped her. She thanked me at the end of that talk for listening and understanding. I thought that was a breakthrough for us. However, and here's the not-so-great part, not everything healed perfectly. A couple of days ago, we hit a snag. We were assembling a crib for the nursery. Well, I was fumbling with the screws and she was sitting there reading instructions. Out of nowhere, she got kind of quiet and then said, "Do you think I'm a terrible person?" I was confused and asked what she meant. She said, "For the whole name thing, for even wanting that." I told her no, she's not a terrible person, she went through something hard, and it just came out in a weird way. She looked unconvinced and said that I must think badly of her, even if I say I don't. She mentioned how I slept on the couch those nights, and how I probably hated her guts then. I was honest. I said, I was really upset and hurt, yes. I even questioned what the hell was going on with you. But I never hated you. I was scared. She seemed stuck on guilt, saying she feels like she ruined a special time for us with this drama. I tried to reassure her that the remaining months of the pregnancy can still be special, and that we're okay now. But she ended up crying, and it morphed into this emotional thing where I ended up feeling like I had to defend myself again. She said it was hard for her that I immediately assumed the worst of her by thinking she had lingering feelings or bad intentions. I, in turn, said it was hard for me that she hid a significant life event, her ex's death, from me for years. That maybe showed a lack of trust too. It kind of devolved from there. She said she didn't tell me because she didn't want me to be jealous of a dead man or feel weird. I said she should have trusted my love for her enough to share something like that, and that by not telling me, it did the damage she tried to avoid. We cooled off eventually, but it left a funk. That conversation made it clear that even though the big conflict, the name choice, is resolved, there's some residual hurt on both sides. We've essentially had a crack put in our trust, and it's not instantly fixed. Since then, she's been a bit down, not angry, just sad. I've been extra attentive, trying to show her I love her. But part of me is also a little hurt still, and I'm sure she senses that. We kind of tiptoe around deeper discussions so we don't upset each other. It feels like we both are afraid to scratch the scar in case it opens again. I've decided to look into a couples counselor or a therapist who deals with grief. I haven't brought it up to her yet, planning to soon, but I think an objective third party might help us fully move past this. Because I want to move past it, and I know she does too. We love each other, and this has been the only real major issue between us. It just sucks that it happened during what should be such a joyful time. We're in the home stretch with the pregnancy now. I'm excited and nervous to become a dad. She's excited to be a mom. We've been focusing on preparing for the baby, and there are genuinely happy moments. Feeling him kick, setting up his room, imagining his little face. We even made a pact the other day. Once he's here, we give him the best, most loving environment, and whatever tension we have, we deal with it away from him. We high-fived on that. Corny, I know, but it felt reassuring.